I will be forever the myth.
You're the king of kings, Arnold.
There's always a pecking order. The little packers never mess with the big packers. So I'm a rooster, and he's a chicken, so to speak.
But, I told you the story about Franco. Never really liked me because of that time up in the original Gold.
Yeah.
You know the story.
Yeah.
They had that little dressing room upstairs, where the showers were, and the bathroom that had no door, toilet with no door. And, Arnold used to come up there and practice his posing. And that particular day, I was just coming home from school. I used to go to the gym. They didn't have lockers. You just hang up your stuff, on the hangers.
Mm-hmm.
There was Arnold posing. I think they were getting ready for one of the Olympias. This is way back in the early 70s. And Franco and him were both posing, so Sergio Brainum was there. A lot of the top bodybuilders just happened to be up there at the same. They were watching Arnold and giving their critiques of Arnold's physique because it was close to the contest. And I said, Arnold, holy shit, man, you look unbeatable. A couple other guys kind of gave me a sharp glance because they were competing against him. I forgot for a second that they were there. I was just looking at Arnold with these gigantic arms and pecs like slabs. I mean, like unhuman. And Franco was posing, and I looked at him. I didn't say a word because I wasn't impressed with Franco.
Yeah,
I thought he was out of proportion. He had the torso of a guy 6 foot tall. He had these little short arms that weren't impressive. He had no cuts in his legs.
Mm-hmm.
But his torso and his back were fantastic.
Yeah.
So my policy was, look, if you can't say anything good about somebody, don't say anything. But Franco, because he heard me say that about Arnold, I swear to you, he took it really personal and was never friendly to me again after that.
Yeah.
Never. At the memorial for Joe Weider, I took a picture with Franco, and he did. If you look at the photo, I think it's on my face. I have my arm. He's smiling. He's not smiling in the camera. He looks like a guy who's about to be killed.
Yeah.
He looks very unhappy with me standing next to him. He never forgot that after all those years. That's why I was surprised when they invited me to his memorial.
Yeah.
I was very surprised. Apparently, they didn't know that Franco didn't like me.
Yeah.
Well,
let's talk about part one. But first of all, I want to say that I think it was great, that in 2023 they did this documentary about Arnold, because I think a lot of younger people don't know about the influence of Arnold. Like I listened to this one movie podcast. It's called The Big Picture, and it's all about movies. They don't know anything about bodybuilding, obviously.
Yeah.
So the guy who's the host of the podcast, he's about 40.
Yeah.
So he was asking the producer of the show, who's this kid who's like in his early 20s. And so the producer of the show, who's in his 40s, he said, he goes, my recollection of Arnold was from when he was like in the late 80s, early 90s, that part of his career as a movie star. So he doesn't even remember Arnold really from Conan or Terminator. I mean, he's seen those movies, but he remembers him more from like True Lies and, those kind of movies.
Yeah.
So he was asking this kid, he goes, what's your impression of Arnold? Like, how did you know Arnold? And so this kid said, he goes, we didn't even know he was a movie star. He goes, we just know the memes about him, like, get to the chopper or I'll be back. They just heard the sayings. They didn't even know like what movies they were from.
Nothing.
So that's how far removed these kids are from like me and you. We know Arnold as the great bodybuilder, and then he became the movie star, and then he became all this stuff in the promoter of Arnold Classic and all that. But these guys who are younger, they don't even know about it. They don't even know about Arnold like in his early movie star days, let alone the bodybuilding,
Nothing. No, you're right. It's good that they showed that. So, some of these. Because I know Netflix is very popular, and a lot of these younger people.
Yeah, a lot of people
watch that.
Yeah.
And they could see, the extent of Arnold's career and how well known he was in bodybuilding circles, like a top guy. And he's had, like he says in the movie, the way they divide, he's had several careers.
He said 3 lifetimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like living 3 lives. He's got a bodybuilder, then movie star, then politician.
Yeah.
And back to acting again.
Like you said, Jerry, he's one of the greatest success stories ever.
What a charmed life. Arnold, I mean, God bless him. I hope he lives for a long time. But if he were to die tomorrow, God forbid, this guy can say he lived what a full life.
Yeah.
Who could live I mean, he's had everything go. I mean, he had a little domestic problem there, but he has children. He's got 4 grown children. He's got this nice kid, Joseph. I mean, everything, money, house. He showed that Sun Valley house he's had for years. I mean, gee, what a life. I mean, how could a guy like that, plus he's going out with this environmental stuff. He gives, he's doing this, he does whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
How could you not be the happiest guy on earth with a life like that?
Well,
Arnold,
plus, I remember they interviewed Jim Lorimer, and Jim Lorimer said, he goes, most of us will be forgotten. He goes, but Arnold will be remembered like 100 years from now. We'll still remember Arnold,
I'm sure he's right. I mean, well, yes and no. I mean, I actually wrote about that because I mean, I'm a little bit of a fan of some of the old movies, right? And I don't know if you know this, there's a lot of movie stars who are just major stars in the early silent films and the 1920s. Not Charlie Chaplin or Buster Keaton. But these guys were as big as, let's say, what's his name, George Clooney and what's that other guy? Brad Pitt. They were the equivalent of them back then. Everybody knew them. Everybody knew them. Anywhere you went, if Mary McClure, whatever they. Oh yeah, I love them. Nobody knows who they are.
No, I know.
And even hardcore movie fans don't know who these people are.
Mm.
So maybe Arnold could be the exception, but 100 years, I'm not so sure,
Yeah.
Not so sure. Fame is, as they say, is very fleeting.
Yeah. Let's talk about part 1, which was the part about being a bodybuilder. I took a lot of notes here.
Yeah.
So, like I said at the beginning of our interview, the greatest thing to me about the whole thing was this unseen footage from Pumping Iron.
Yeah.
We know that Arnold bought all the footage. There's 100 hours for people that don't know. They shot 100 hours of footage when they made the movie, and then the movie is like 85 minutes. So
Right.
there's a lot of footage that we never saw, and Arnold bought it from George Butler for whatever fee he paid. So he's got it, and it's never been released. And I remember, like, people are always sending me emails like, man, how come Arnold won't release this footage? Why don't they put it in a DVD? Everybody would buy it. Well, he waited until they did the documentary about his life, and then he released this footage. So there's some great stuff in there, wasn't there?
Absolutely. But I don't know if this is true. Again, this is hearsay, what I'm about to say. I heard that he bought that footage because there was some scenes that he considered embarrassing, especially
I heard that too.
That he was, he was already, I think, either a governor or running for governor. He felt that could hurt him politically.
That's when he bought it, around that time.
Yeah, exactly. That something about, maybe where he looked like a Nazi sympathizer.
Yeah.
He was like Hitler salutes. I think Arnie Zeller told me this years ago.
Yeah.
There was very embarrassing footage. So rather than sort through it, he just bought all the outtakes to make sure that they never got out in public.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if that's true. I got it from Artie Zeller.
No, I heard Rick Wayne told me that too.
Okay, so it's probably true.
Yeah.
So Arnold had, then the story that, Arnold bought a lot of Artie's photo library to help out his widow. When Artie died, Arnold bought Artie's entire, photos of him because, again, there was a couple of embarrassing photos of Arnold in there, and Arnold wanted to have control of them. That's the story I was told also,
Yeah.
So it's
there's this one scene where he's posing in front of Denny Gable and Ed Corney and Robbie. Remember that, where he's posing? Yeah. And that was so cool. I mean, Ed Corney's back there and he hits a 3/4 back and he goes, very dramatic, Arnold.
yeah, right. No, I wish, I mean, Arnold, I wish they would, Arnold or somebody should like edit that footage.
Yeah.
Like
just the bodybuilding stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if the stuff is embarrassing, you can edit it out.
Oh yeah, we just want to see the gym stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the scene I was talking about. This is again told to me secondhand. Arnold was imitating Hitler. He, put on a fake and Hitler. That was embarrassing to him. So you could edit that out. But guys like you and me and the bodybuilding fan would love to see that unused. This is Arnold. When he was really
Plus, they must have had tons of footage of that '75 Olympia when they went over to South Africa.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a nice little. Arnold could probably make money off that.
Yeah,
and it would be a nice. I think a lot of people would want to see that.
Oh, all the bodybuilders would.
So I mean, what is he going to do? Keep it till he?
I know. And then
just nobody's ever going to see it.
Get it right.
It's kind of sad, but it's up to Arnold, I guess.
They also had some cool footage of that Mr. World contest he won in 1970 in Columbus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the one where he supposedly flew from right after winning the NABBA.
London. Yeah.
I mean, the story was that Lorimer arranged a plane for him or something?
Yeah.
To get him and he went literally right off the plane into the Veterans Auditorium.
Yeah. So they left because I guess the story was Lorimer called up Arnold and he said he wanted to go in that Mr. World contest.
Right.
And Arnold said, I would love to, but I can't. I'm going to be in London that weekend competing in Mr. Universe. And so then Lorimer's like, well, we got to figure this out. How can we do this? So he said, well, how about if I push the contest back to Sunday?
Yeah.
It was an amateur and a professional, Mr. World.
Right.
And they also held the World Weightlifting Championships with it, which was going to take place on Saturday. So Lorimer said, we'll do the pro men on Sunday. So he goes, if you can get to Heathrow Airport in the morning, and he goes, fly from London to New York. He goes, I'll have a private plane waiting for you in New York, and we'll take you to Columbus right away.
Right.
So it was Arnold and Franco and Draper and Boyer Coe, all four of them flew.
Did Coe compete in that show? I don't remember.
Yeah. He took second to Franco.
Okay. Now, the thing is, that's supposedly the famous contest where Arnold was so impressed by what Lorimer did to get him over there and the way the contest was organized.
Yeah.
That they decided to form a handshake partnership.
Yeah.
That lasted all the way to Lorimer's passing.
Yeah.
They never had like a written contract, nothing. It was all handshake.
Yeah.
Of course, the Arnold. This is for the Arnold contest, Arnold Invitational, and it grew and it grew and it grew. Where first they had the big what is it called that where they have all the booths before the show Expo. That started with nothing, became this huge thing. And then they expanded all over the world. That's the way it is now.
Yeah,
it's an interesting story that that there was that much.
At that time, at that Mr. World, Arnold had not even been Mr. Olympia yet. He had not even won Mr. Olympia because he won it like 2 weeks later, and he beat Sergio at that contest.
Right.
And Lorimer had Wide World of Sports there to cover it. It was the first big contest covered for television.
That's right. Well, let me ask you. I don't remember. Was Dennis Tenorino in that contest? I vaguely remember.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay, yeah. I couldn't remember. I wasn't sure whether he competed. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he was fourth behind Draper, Sergio, and Arnold in the tall class. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so Arnold told Lorimer, he said, man, I'm so impressed with what you did with the plane, getting us here. And then the fact that it was on TV, and then I happened to beat Sergio. He said, when I retire from bodybuilding, I'm going to promote contests. And he goes, I want you to be my partner.
That's
so
right.
I guess when he went to compete in '75, he knew that was going to be his last year.
Right.
And that was the year they were filming Pumping Iron. So I guess they decided, they had the Congress, the IFBB Congress that year, and they decided who was going to hold the contest the next year.
Right.
So he told Jim Lorimer, he goes, you have to put together a package. So I'll present it at this IFBB Congress. Okay. So Lorimer put together this whole package about, we're going to have it at this hotel, and we're going to have it at this auditorium, the Veterans Memorial Auditorium, and we're going to have it at this hotel. We're going to have the fire department involved, and the police department's on board, the mayor's on board, and it was like way better than all the other packages, And so they gave it to Lorimer. So it was because of Jim Lorimer that all the work he did that Arnold and Lorimer were able to present it. And then they really changed bodybuilding that year because they had a whole new. I mean, bodybuilding shows were never that professional before Arnold and Lorimer did it.
It's true, but I mean, now they got a whole sports festival. I mean, they got mixed martial, all this stuff.
Yeah.
But correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Jim Lorimer's son kind of take over for Jim Lorimer? Where now him and Arnold are partners, right? Is that right?
No, Bob Lorimer, his son, was taking over it, but now Arnold's got a new partner. So the Lorimers are out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they've been out the last couple of years.
The Lorimers are out.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Wow. Yeah.
Well, they also talked about another interesting part of that documentary was they had a lot of stuff about him growing up in Austria, and they had a lot of footage of Austria. That was really cool. That was interesting. And he talked a lot. He talked a lot about his mom and dad.
Oh, a lot about his mother. But another scene I like, now that you mentioned, I'm glad you reminded me. I like this scene of him with his old childhood friends.
Yeah.
Sitting, having, what was it, lunch or breakfast? I
Well, they
mean,
would go to that Lake Vallersea.
yeah,
And
like, yeah,
hang
that's what
out and do chin
he used
ups.
to work out. No, it's true. He used to work out as a young, like 15-year-old kid.
Yeah.
They're all adults. Kind of
Yeah.
reminds me of myself in a way, because when I was 14, I trained at a gym called Mid City Health Club in New York. I was 14. I was the only kid in the gym.
Mhm.
Everybody there was an adult, minimal age of like 25 and over. I was the
Wow.
only kid there. Reminds you of that. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and I'm not comparing myself to Arnold, but I'm saying we had the
Yeah.
same situation. But you know, I mean, I looked at, I was watching Arnold's face as he was sitting with his old friends, his old cronies there, and you could see the joy he had.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, he never forgot his old. He was really happy to
Yeah.
be with his old friends, and this is kind of the way I feel Arnold feels about his bodybuilding friends from years ago.
Yeah.
When Arnold sees me today, which is very rare, he immediately gets a big smile on his face. He seems genuinely happy to see me.
Yeah.
And I've noticed he treats all the other guys from the old days, the few that are remaining, that are still alive.
Yeah.
He doesn't, I mean, you can see he's not faking. He really likes, I guess maybe it's because it's a reminder of his youth.
Yeah.
He was a young guy at the top, he's just really comfortable and happy around the guys that he knew from years ago. That's something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then they even interviewed, I think it was Carl Gerstel, and his dad was a big influence on Arnold. Dr. Gerstel, who was also into politics.
Yeah.
He told Arnold, "You got to develop your mind," and Arnold talked a lot about him in the documentary, about how he was so different than his dad. He would have conversations with Arnold, and he would, he'd go over to dinner, and they said it was totally different. They would have conversation at the table, where he said at Arnold's house they didn't even talk at the dinner table.
Yeah, we see that's another essential point about this documentary that Arnold emphasizes throughout the documentary, but especially at the end when he makes that statement. He says it's ridiculous to look at me. People always talk about my success. He says the truth is I was helped by many people.
Yeah.
Nobody makes it on their own. It's a myth. And this is an absolute truth about Arnold. I witnessed it. I saw how people, when he was a young guy, I knew there was a guy who taught him about real estate, told him to buy the apartment building, which he mentioned. Another guy, he says it's Joe Weider, but it was another guy who told him about purchasing art.
Yeah.
And then you have this guy Gerstel, like you say, who taught him about politics and taught him
developing your mind.
Yeah, an intellectual side of life away from the physical. See, the thing about Arnold, again, one of the reasons for his success was not only that he was driven and very goal-oriented, but he would always have good people around him, and he'd take from people that he respected. He would learn from them and apply it to his own life. That is a very unusual individual.
Yes.
He always, all his life, he would just listen. He was, Arnold was never stupid. If he felt that you had something to contribute to him, he would listen to you and try to apply it to himself.
Yes.
And that's shown in the documentary. That's one of the key. That is probably the key.
The key to his success.
Arnold's success.
Yeah.
And he used all these various people to apply to himself and use it as stepping stones to meet his goals.
And he was smart enough to be open enough to want to learn from these people.
Exactly right. He never showed any arrogance in that respect.
Right.
He never say, "Well, who the fuck is this?"
Because if you didn't know Arnold, you could have just said, "Well, he was just genetically given to be a bodybuilder, and that's why he became a great bodybuilder." But it was way, way more than that.
Way more than that.
Yeah.
Arnold. I mean, Arnold. Again, if he respected the information you had, he was a very apt listener to you. He listened to you very closely, and again, try to apply to himself. And he didn't give a shit whether you're a bodybuilder. If you were a big fat guy and you knew about real estate, he'd sit there for hours. He couldn't give a crap less about that. Yeah. He wanted to learn, and he was open to learning. That's a key. That is a key to success for anyone. I don't care whether Arnold or anybody else. If you want to really make it, you got to be open to learning and not have a closed mind.
Yeah.
And don't rule out things. You really have to. That's what made Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Look at Sergio Oliva, who had even better genetics than Arnold and didn't achieve 1/100
example.
of success.
Perfect example. Just the antithesis of Arnold.
Yeah.
Sergio was a stubborn guy who didn't
Yes.
want to listen to people.
Stubborn and proud, but
And as a bodybuilder, I think you'll agree, and most people who are objective will agree, Sergio was about as great a bodybuilder as Arnold. He was, in some ways, better than Arnold.
better genetically, yeah.
He had better Sergio, in my opinion, was probably the most genetically gifted bodybuilder of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people say, well, he got bad breaks because he's a black guy and this and that. No, that may be a small part of it, but I believe Sergio, I know the man, I know how he acted. He was just the opposite. He was very closed, very stubborn, and he immediately ruled people out. Fuck this guy, this, that.
Yeah.
That's why all right, Sergio was a Chicago cop. I'm not putting him down. He did the best he could. But my point is, Sergio could have gone a lot further.
Oh, a lot further.
Don't you think, if he had been a little bit more open to people,
Yeah.
maybe change his personality a little bit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're telling me to go fuck myself when I was 14. I
Yeah.
mean, all right, that's neither here nor there. The point is, he would have gone a lot further if he had just kind of had a more of Arnold's mindset. Could have gone a lot further, been a lot more successful.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Even his son, Sergio Oliva Jr., who I know pretty well, we had to talk about that. He told me the same thing. He admitted it was just, my father used to turn a lot of people off.
Oh, yeah.
Closed-minded, he says.
Yeah.
So.
And then it was cool how he talked about joining that weightlifting club when he was a teenager.
Yeah, you said
they had some great pictures of him competing.
Oh, yeah.
When he was like 16 years old, 17 years old. I never saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see him with the other lifters wearing the lifting outfit.
Remember those contests he used to have? And he said they would have a band behind him. And all these girls that come in, and it was in a beer hall.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it. There was one photo of Arnold. It must have been about 17.
Yeah.
Side shot with the bicep.
Yeah.
And had these girls like looking at it.
Right.
But Arnold is just so focused. I'm not going to look at the girls. I'm just looking at the camera.
Right.
I mean, the later Arnold, you see him in Pumping Iron when he's standing when the female photographer walks by. He goes like this.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it shows you how his personality changed over the years.
And then the part before that too, when he talked about seeing the Reg Park movie. And then he saw the magazine of Reg Park and he read about it. And then he would hang up the pictures. He had the pictures on the wall. And he went to his bedroom, his childhood bedroom in his childhood house, and he laid in the bed and he said, "Yeah, I had the pictures right here." Just like that.
That's true. But the thing is, that's another example of how Arnold took things from somebody else. And as he says in the movie, and this is gospel, because one of my good friends is John Park, Reg's son, who is in the movie. He's interviewed.
Yeah.
I mean, as he pointed out, Arnold, Reg Park was his mentor, his idol, and Arnold stayed in South Africa at Reg Park, got to know John and his sister and John's mother, and of course Reg. Well, they all hung out, and Arnold, as he explains in the movie, was so impressed by the family closeness.
Yeah.
Reg Park and his wife and children, that he vowed, and he wasn't married then. He had nothing like that. He was still a young man, 21, 22 years old. He said, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a life just like Reg. I'm going to have a wife and a family and kids. And I knew Reg Park. And the last couple of years of his life, I got to know him very well. And let me tell you something about Reg. Reg he used to piss me off when he said this. He'd say, "Jerry," he says, "family is everything. It's more important than anything." He'd always say that. And I loved Reg. He was a great guy. He was like a second father to me. He was so nice to me.
Yeah.
I always felt bad when he said that because I don't have a family. I'm not married. I have no kids. He's making me feel bad. He's telling me everything. And I have not, what is he saying? I have nothing? He didn't mean to say that, but I only say that to emphasize how big Reg was on the whole family situation. And it stuck in Arnold's mind. So that was, again, one of Arnold's goals. To have this ideal family situation with the wife. Of course, it didn't really work out that way, but that's
It was also interesting when he came to America and he was dating Barbara Outland, and that was his first girlfriend here. And then he went and visited her family on Christmas. And he said they would have like a birthday party for him. And he goes, "I never had a birthday cake before." He was 21 years old, and he never had a birthday. He never celebrated his birthday in Austria ever.
Well, in that situation, it's a type of a reverse psychology, if you want to call it. Maybe psychology, not the word, because Arnold, as he said, I don't think maybe he mentioned it in the documentary. He used his father's aggression and basically meanness towards him to turn into a impetus for success.
Yeah.
In the back of his mind, his early goal, this is when he was still coming up, was my father thinks that I'm shit, and my brother Meinhard is the good son.
Yeah.
He thinks I'm a loser. In fact, he doesn't even think I'm his son. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to work my ass off to prove to him that I am a superior person. I don't care what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, the meaner his father was to him, the more driven Arnold was to prove that he was above that. So he used his father's actual, no other word for it, child abuse to drive his success.
Right.
Now, you know what? Let me tell you, John, it takes a very strong personality to do that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people would be broken by having a parent like
Well, he actually implied in the documentary that his brother was more emotional and wasn't as strong, and that's what broke him.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Arnold, kind of hard. He used the father's meanness to harden himself up. And he talks about, how he, the fake story about him not attending his father. That was, of course, made up for pumping iron. That didn't really happen. But the point is, Arnold used the negativity from his father to drive himself to success. In fact, I remember Arnold telling me his story. I just remembered now. When I first met him, he told me a lot of stories about growing up there. Told me about his father. He said, my father was a mean bastard. He said to me,
Mm-hmm.
he says, when we used to eat dinner, he says, me and my brother, if he had a stick or a piece of wood or something, he says, if either of us put our elbows on the table, the father would take the stick and whack our elbows. So I said, Arnold, did he just hit you? He said he hit us full force. He said, I'd have big red marks on my elbows.
Wow.
I said, what up, Arnold? Your father was a mean bastard. He says he was, but you know what? He says, I used it to my advantage. He told me.
Yeah.
He told himself. So again, an example of Arnold taking something that normally would break somebody else and actually using it to propel himself forward.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a strong personality, When you have a father that abusive, and his mother was nice to him, but she was kind of like, his father was very dominant. The mother couldn't do much.
Yeah.
One of the situations,
Then he talked about competing in that best built man in Europe, where he left the military. He went off the base during basic training, and he took the train to Stuttgart, and he met Franco and he met Albert Busek on the same night. So two significant people in his life.
Right. That's true. But what was I going to say about that? Another thing that I knew about Arnold's brother because he told me.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I remember Arnold telling me when his brother died, believe it or not, way back in the 70s.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, he told me that his brother, the story I was told was that his brother was speeding, just like Arnold says in the movie. But I heard that he was on one of those mountain roads and was going too fast, didn't make the turn, and went right off the cliff.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Was
he drinking too?
Yeah, he was drunk. He was drunk. Yeah. And, and Arnold changed his story to where it's an automobile accident because he was drunk driving. But I never really saw a clear picture of his brother because Arnold would say that his brother was a good-looking guy, but they showed his brother. The first time I've actually seen his brother was a very handsome guy.
Yeah.
He was better looking than Arnold.
Yeah, I think he was taller. He was better looking. He was more muscular. And
But people don't know this. I'm surprised Arnold didn't mention this in the documentary because, again, it probably would have made Arnold look good. Arnold's brother, Meinhard, he did have a son named Patrick, right?
Yeah.
And what Arnold did is many years ago, he brought his nephew, Patrick, to the United States. And I think he was already maybe 18 or something like that. He bought this kid a house. He paid for his entire college education, helped him every step of the way. Today, Patrick, his nephew, is an entertainment lawyer.
Yeah.
So Arnold helped him a lot.
Yeah.
He didn't mention that in the
No, he
movie,
didn't mention that, right?
you know.
They did get a couple things wrong, I noticed. He was talking about the first time he went in the Olympia in '69 against Sergio, and they showed a picture of the '72 Olympia.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, I caught that also.
And then he was talking about when he competed in the '68 NABBA universe, which was the second win, and they showed footage from the '69. So
that's right.
only
Yeah.
a history buff like you or me would figure
I caught
that
it.
out.
I caught it. Yeah, I caught that right away. Yeah,
Right.
that right away.
Let's see. What else was good?
And the funny thing was they supposedly had a couple of consultants that supposedly knew about body. I'm surprised they didn't catch that.
Well, when I was talking to the producer, because I talked to him several times, he kept calling me up, and he was asking me questions about Arnold in these contests, and I was telling him he didn't know anything about it. So then he said, "Would you want to be in the documentary?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to be in the documentary." And he goes, "Well, sometimes we have a bunch of people talking about the history." He goes, "Maybe we'll just have one guy like you talk about the history." But then they didn't use that at all. Like it was mostly narrated by Arnold, you know.
Right. So they never tried to film you at all. Nothing.
No, no.
Okay. Yeah.
In fact, most of the people that I gave them information on, like I said, Charles Gaines, Boyer, they were very small parts. You know, even Zane was hardly in it either.
You're right. Very brief. Yeah.
And I thought they were going to interview Roy Callender because Roy spent the night with Arnold the first night he was in America.
Right.
Like Roy likes to joke around and say, "I slept with Arnold the first night he was in America."
Yeah.
But Roy told me this funny story about this was after he lost to Zane, and he said Arnold was so upset. And I said, I heard stories that Arnold was crying, and he goes, "No, he wasn't crying." He goes, I never seen Arnold cry, but he goes, he was pissed. He goes, these fucking judges.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah.
Because I met him a week later. Like I said, he was still furious.
Yeah.
And I told you the story. I mean, he tried to show me he was fixed with a medallion that they made him wear with Frank Zane's picture in the program.
Yeah.
I mean, from my perspective, you know, being objective, I was actually convinced. I said, "Gee, Arnold, it does look bad.
It does look,
Why would they put a competitor of yours on the program and you make you wear a medallion with a other competitors' image? That doesn't sound right."
Right.
You know.
So Roy said that when they were there that night, he was grumbling, you know, in the bed. He was just grumbling. They had the lights out, and I guess they had to do a photo shoot the next day with Weider. So Roy's like, "Hey, Arnold, you know," he goes, "you just weren't at your best." He goes, "You would have won that contest if you were at your best." He goes, "Just let it go, man. Just let it go." And then Arnold said, he goes, "I'll tell you what." He goes, "I'm going to be big in America." That's what he said.
Yeah. Well, he was right. Another prediction.
He was right. Yeah.
Another prediction. I told you the story about how Arnold called me that one time. Did I? You know, I told you that story, right? I was sitting here one day and my phone rings and I hear a voice and it says, "Hello, Jerry, this is Arnold." And I think, and I
You thought somebody was putting you on?
thought somebody was putting me on because, you know, so many Arnold imitators around. I said, "Hey, you know what, buddy? You do a great Arnold imitation." I said, I'm almost kidding. I said, "Who is this really?" He said, No, this is Arnold." I said, "Come on, man. You know, just, you know, I like the joke. Tell me who you are."
Yeah.
He said, "No, Jerry." So I said, "Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Only Arnold himself can answer it. If you answer it, I know that you're really Arnold." He says, "Okay, go ahead and ask." I said, "Arnold used to add a certain ingredient to his protein drinks. What was it?" He says, "Oh, you mean the schnapps?" I said, "Okay, it's you, Arnold." You know, he had a little bit of liquor because he thought it would, you know, but and then I said to him, "Arnold, I got to ask you one question." Oh, actually, he called me up because he was giving a speech and he wanted to know when protein supplements were first used. That's what he wanted to ask me.
Oh, okay.
He got my number from John Balick from Iron Man. See, but anyway, I said, "I got to ask you." This relates to what you're saying. I said, "I got to ask you one question." And you know, you told me when I first met you, you complained about Zane beating you. You thought you were a clear winner there in Miami there in '68. I said, "After all these years, how do you feel now?" He says, "I was wrong." He says, "Frank was a clear winner." He says, "I was not in my best shape. I was smooth. I was holding water. Frank was a deserving winner."
Yeah.
And I said, "Arnold, you're a big man to say that. I got to give you credit." He says, "It's just the truth."
Well, did you catch that part too, where it talked about learning from other people? He said after he lost to Zane, he moved to America. He moved to California, and Zane was living in Florida, and he convinced Zane to come
That's right.
to move to California because he wanted to learn from him. He wanted to learn, how did you get that muscle quality? How did you beat me?
Right.
So he became, and I guess he was staying with Arnold. He lived with Arnold for a while.
I guess so. Yeah. I know. I remember reading where Frank taught Arnold archery. Frank's hobby was archery.
Yeah.
And also he helped Arnold with math because Frank was a math teacher.
Yeah.
But the thing about
Barbara helped him with writing.
That's right. Yeah. But see, the thing about this is another example of Arnold learning from the best, so to speak, because Frank had a very finished physique. Frank was small, but he was cut and hard and tan.
Right.
And kind of analyzed his loss and said, all right, he's a lot smaller than me, but he's harder. He's got finished physique. He's got the tan. I'm pacing right, bulky. He says, I'm going to watch this guy and learn from him and apply it to myself because I think this is the winning formula. Yeah. If I get as cut as Zane and retain most of my size and get a tan, I should be able to beat everyone. That was his thinking.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's what he did. Exactly what he did.
He learned from the people who beat him. Yeah.
That's what he did. That's a smart guy.
I know.
A smart guy. See, this is Sergio wouldn't do that. Sergio Lima.
No.
Sergio
would say he got ripped off.
Yeah, he'd just say I got ripped off. Joe Weider, I lost because Joe Weider doesn't like me, or I lost because I'm black. Blah blah blah. You come up with he wouldn't think like Arnold.
Did you see the footage where he was in Joe's office and he said, he was learning a lot of business from Joe, and he said, he goes, I told Joe, he goes, I want to learn this stuff because if I take over the business after you pass away, and Joe loved that,
Yeah.
Did you see that one clip? I thought it was interesting. Joe's showing these slides on a screen.
Right. Yeah.
And he goes, I think I'm going to put this guy on the cover. And Arnold goes, no, Joe, no, you told me you're only going to put Mr. Olympias and Mr. Universes on the cover. You can't put him on the cover. And Joe starts walking away. He goes, no, it'll be all right. And he goes, Joe. I was wondering if that was like Mensa or something.
I got a kick out of that scene because when I used to go up to the Weider office, Joe would do the same thing to me. He would take me in this photo area, and he had that same thing where you could see that, the photos, and he'd ask me my opinion about different covers. He did the same thing with me.
Yeah.
He says, which photo should I use on the next issue? What do you think? Well, which one? So I would say, and I'd look at it, you had this little thing you could see. I'd say, gee, this photo here, this one, he looks really good. And Joe would say, I'm going to go with the other one. He always did that. I said, Joe, why do you even ask me? If you already made up your mind, why you even bother asking?
Right. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Hey, speaking of that, I just want to, as a side note, I was looking at some of these old. I still keep in touch with Rick Wayne after I did the interview with him last year. And Rick said he wants to maybe get back into a little bit of writing, about bodybuilding. So he doesn't have all those old magazines, and he knows I've got them all. So he goes, well, if you ever come across some of those articles I wrote, he goes, send them to me. Okay. And I said, all right, I'll just take pictures of my phone and I'll send them to you. Sure. So I know he wrote the article about the 81 Olympia.
Right.
I said, well, let me just take the pictures of it real quick. And oh my God, this thing was 4 parts, Jerry. 4 issues.
It was four parts?
4 parts. Part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 of the 1981 Mr. Olympia.
Did you say it was like 47 pages?
It was 47 pages, yeah.
And all of them were written by Rick Wayne?
Yeah.
Holy, that's got to be the biggest contest report ever.
I know. I think so. You're right.
Oh, wow.
And then I don't know if you saw my Facebook post. I said, now let's compare that to today.
Yeah, I saw that post. Yeah.
I did a Google search to 2022 Mr. Olympia. I wanted to see what articles were online because there's no more magazines.
Yeah.
It was like 4 paragraphs.
Yeah, I know. Nothing. Hey, but if you want to really go further, like I said, like we've talked about in the past, I mean, years ago, John, in the 70s and earlier, the big contest, besides the Olympia, was the NABBA Universe.
Right.
They had all the magazines. They had the professional, guys like Bill Pearl and Arnold, and Zane, Chris Dickinson, Borico, all these. You want to go way back? Steve Reeves, Reg Park, John. Gray, they all won that title.
Yeah.
And whoever won the NABBA Universe, both the amateur and the pro division, they get all the magazines.
Yeah.
All the you'd know if you read the magazines. Everybody
was in like 3 or 4 different magazines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone who trained or read the mag knew if you said, "Hey, John, who just won the?" and you'd say, "Well, this guy here." You knew who the current NABBA Universe. Then it just it died out. And I think I even asked you last time we spoke. I don't even know if there's a NABBA
I
university.
don't think so. I don't even
There's
think
no
so.
publicity at all.
Yeah.
Nothing. It just died.
Well, when I saw the in-depth article that Rick wrote, it's like, God, man, the magazines were so good. I understand now people want the news faster, and we had to wait months to get the report.
Sure.
But man, talk about in-depth coverage. You would know everything that went on. It was so great to read those,
I personally, I don't know, call me old-fashioned, but I'd rather read that kind of stuff.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Shit you see on social media.
But what I was thinking was the history of the sport. I mean, if you look back now, let's say 15 years from now, and you said, well, what happened at the 2023 Mr. Olympia? Let me look back. There's no stories. There's nothing. You won't, you can find the list of who won, top 10, but you're never going to find the story. There won't be no story.
No, there's no background.
So all the history of today is going to die because it's not being recorded.
I know. That's why, like I told you, when I worked for Weider, when I used to go to the big contests, I came up with this idea. The way contests were reports, maybe with the exception of Rick, because he would put more personality into it. But most contest reports back then, guys would just basically, Mike Christian has big shoulders and he had great legs and was in muscular. I mean, then they have like 10 pictures of Mike Christian. Where the guy is just basically saying what's in the picture.
Right.
So I said, well, who wants to read this shit?
Tell me the backstage story. Yeah.
Yeah, then I found out, this is what really convinced me. I found out that the contest reports were the least popular articles in the body. Did you know this? Nobody wanted to read them because they just weren't interesting. All they did is describe the guy's physique.
Yeah.
They didn't tell you anything about the guy. So I said to myself, now what do people really want to read? How about if I interview all the winners, all the top 6 in every class, and rather than describe their physique, which the pictures will do, I'm going to ask him stuff like, what did you do differently for this contest? How did you change your training? I'm going to turn it into a training article. So I went at him. I was the only one who ever did that. I used to go backstage and interview all the guys when I went, whether it's the amateur, NPC, and I went with the IFBB Pro Show. I went back. That's why everybody knew me. See, back then, I didn't just sit in the freaking press box like everybody else. I went backstage and interviewed each guy personally to try and find out. I wanted to make it where a reader would say, okay, I see. Oh, this is what he did for the show. That's why he looked. I wanted to make it something where people would want to read. I thought of the reader rather than anything else. And that's why all the guys back then, the amateurs and pros, they all knew me because they met me. I spoke to them.
Yeah.
Right? I tell people today, none of the bodybuilders know me because all the guys I know, they're all retired. They're all out. I said, but there was a time when every bodybuilder knew because I personally interviewed all of them. Today, these guys don't know me from Adam.
Well, what Rick did was, when I was reading through this article, in part 1, I guess what he would do is he would talk to these guys throughout the year. Like he talked to Danny Padilla back in January, February, and find out, or he'd find out like what he did the whole year. And then part 1, he would say, this is what led up to the Olympia. This is what Danny did all year. This is what Tom Platz did all year, And then that was part 1, and then part 2 was the actual contest, So you got to know these guys,
So that's a good way to do it because it makes it more interesting.
Oh, much more interesting.
I don't know. I haven't looked at I don't know what a bodybuilding magazine still exists.
They're all gone.
They're all what? All digital or gone or what? I don't even know.
The only one left maybe is maybe Muscular Development.
Yeah, I would bet without even looking that their contest reports are garbage.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Nobody's going to put in the effort like Rick did or like I did.
Well, they never make the money back because they would have to buy. They'd have to pay for photographers and writers and the editors, and how are they going to make it back? Nobody's going to buy magazines.
You're right, and you get what you pay for. I mean, if you don't want to pay the people, you're not going to get much. That's the way.
There's no quality at all.
No quality at all. Right. In fact, the last couple of times I did see. Muscle and Fitness when it was still a print publication. I looked at it on the newsstand and I just threw it right back. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. God, boy, did it go down the tubes.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I got boxes and boxes or containers of magazines. I'm never going to get rid of them. They're gold to me. I don't care. I'm never getting rid of them.
Well, what I got here in the corner, I got like 2 big crates that have all of my articles. In other words, but I have the whole issue. I didn't just cut out my articles.
I
kept the whole issue. So
Yeah.
This is the only copies I have, and I don't know if you can get them anymore. So I kept them,
Yeah.
I have them all here,
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, I guess we should wrap this up, Jerry. We could talk all night, but I just want to say that, this was definitely deserving of Arnold, and the guy is an icon. And I know, like, whenever you mention Arnold now on the social media, you get all these idiots saying, well, he said, screw your freedom, so screw him,
Yeah.
I mean, those guys weren't around, and you and I were around back then, and we know that without Arnold, there would be no bodybuilding. Arnold did way more than anyone will ever do in the history of this world for bodybuilding. And one part I thought that was really great with the documentary was they showed this clip of all these talk shows he was on.
Yeah.
And the way he was promoting bodybuilding. I never saw a lot of those. Those were great. He was going on this show and that show, and he's posing with who was that guy from MASH? McLean Stevenson, I think. He was posing with him. It looked like it was on a night show.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
That was great stuff. But
yeah, I mean, the only other guy I could think of in bodybuilding history that promoted that, well, got people to work out because of his physique that is comparable to Arnold. There's only one other person I could think of, and it goes way back. I'm talking about Eugene Sandow.
Yeah.
He's called the father of bodybuilding, and he, in his day, was as big an icon. Remember, they didn't have all the TV and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But he internationally known. He was revered. He got people to work out. He sold courses.
Yeah.
He was even selling his own protein supplement.
Yeah.
So he was, you could say, the architect that Arnold kind of duplicated for later generations.
Yeah.
But other than Eugene Sandow, I agree with you. Nobody popularized bodybuilding, and I don't know if anyone ever will.
No.
What do you think, John? I don't see anyone who has Arnold's combination of personality and physique.
Plus, at that time, nobody knew anything about bodybuilding. They didn't know anything about working out or lifting or muscles or anything. They thought it was just a weird oddball sport. And then here comes Arnold on these talk shows, and they thought bodybuilders were stupid and they didn't know how to speak. And Arnold's articulate, and he's funny, and he's laughing at himself, and he's making jokes, and everybody like, wow, who is this guy? This guy's great. If this is what bodybuilding is all about, I want to be a bodybuilder. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right. Arnold's personality helped a lot.
Yeah.
Like I say, no offense to some of the other guys. I've seen them on talk shows back then, Frank and Dave Draper. They just didn't. I mean, they were great guys.
I don't think no one could have done it then, and I don't think no one could have done it now.
Yeah. And I just honestly, I don't. I mean, I can't foresee the future, but I don't see anybody on the horizon like an Arnold in bodybuilding that would have that great an appeal.
And plus, you're going to have the steroid issue now, and I think that's going to kill it right off the bat, right?
Right, true. I mean, the guys today come and go. They'll be great. Oh, Big Ramey, wow. Then he wins the Olympia twice. He loses. He's already faded out. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like
the only one I think that could possibly do it would be that Chris Bumstead.
Chris Bumstead, yeah. But the thing about Chris Bumstead, I met him. He's a nice guy. Don't get me wrong, but he doesn't have Arnold's charisma.
No, he doesn't. He's
I've seen him in his videos.
For lack of a better word, he's kind of boring.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, I meant, like I say, he's a nice guy.
Super nice guy. Great guy.
I think he has a fantastic physique. I really do. Great physique. And he has an appealing physique. He's not overly big. You know what I mean? He's
in the social media world, he's a sensation. He's got more followers than anybody.
I could see that. But again, he doesn't have the charisma and personality that Arnold. So his degree of success is limited.
Yeah.
In other words, he'll never follow Arnold's footsteps. He can never go into movies or he just doesn't have what Arnold has.
No.
But I agree. He of all the guys today, he has much greater appeal than the others. The others are very, very small group.
But I think his appeal again is more like social media. More of a lot of young guys are going to want to look like him, and that's why he has such a huge following. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see how long the guy can last. As you say, the bodybuilding has become a very limited sport time-wise because of the drug usage and these crazy ideas about staying on steroids all year round. This didn't happen years ago, John.
No.
Guys would cycle off the steroids.
Yeah.
Arnold, Zane, all those guys. Nobody stayed on steroids year round back then. That's why these guys are alive today.
Yeah.
These guys that are
They had that footage of the Whitney Museum when they were posing, and I know those guys were all clean, right? Arnold and Corny, they were all clean. But I was
at the
surprised
Whitney Museum?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could see. I mean, look at Arnold. I mean, there was no back definition. I mean,
no.
I mean,
he still looked good. Like
he still looked good, but nothing.
He did that 3/4 back, and they had on the platform where they turned him around. He still
looked good. Zane looked very smooth compared to the normal.
Smooth and small, yeah.
But I mean, it shows you what the guys look like. They obviously were not on drugs, as you point out.
Right.
But you see, that more or less allowed them to attain a level of longevity.
Yeah.
Whereas guys today, I don't know what's going to happen. These guys are taking on this crap. I have a whole pile of recent studies here next to me about recent study came out about steroid effects, various cases. It's really pulmonary embolisms and liver problems, all this kind of crap. I mean, I don't know what to look. I hope I'm wrong, but
you're probably not.
It's not like the old days. I mean, these guys are not going to have long careers.
And how many bodybuilders today would do a posing exhibition at the Whitney Museum and be clean? Nobody. They wouldn't be clean to go to the gym.
Oh, no way. They like I say, they won't even get off the drugs.
They won't get off because they got to constantly be on social media and they got to constantly look good.
Exactly. I mean, they're so afraid of getting smooth and small. The bodybuilder's curse, smooth and small.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, there was no social media, so you could look like shit 6 months of the year and nobody would see you. Unless they ran into you at the gym, but nobody would see you.
That's exactly right. It's a difference. Unfortunately, it's not good for the bodybuilders because
it's not good for their health.
Their health at serious risk. I'm not trying to be overly dramatic. It's just a fact.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely believe you, Derek.
I mean, maybe if Chris Bumstead, maybe if people feel they can get a more muscular, not overly huge physique, maybe the guys will, not try and emulate some of these ridiculous steroid programs that are being pushed online. But then I see these videos about how great Trenbolone is, and you should get on Trenbolone. John, Trenbolone is the single most dangerous anabolic steroid I know of.
Yeah.
I'm going to do an article of it. It's so freaking dangerous. People have no idea what this shit does. And it's not made by any legitimate pharmaceutical. It's just an underground steroid. It's super dangerous to your health. And they're pushing it like crazy on YouTube. So I don't have a good feeling. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Jared. Well, thank you for joining me on the show again. I wanted to talk about this documentary, and I thought you'd be the perfect guy to do it. And, we talked for a long time, but there was a lot to talk about in this documentary. It's on Netflix right now, so if you guys haven't seen it, check it out. Arnold, the documentary, and it was very, very well done, and there was some really great stuff in there. If you're a bodybuilder or you're an Arnold fan, so thanks again, Jared, for joining me on the show. It's always good to talk to you.
Well, I'll just add, like I said earlier. The documentary, in my opinion, is so good and it's so well done that even if you don't know Arnold as a bodybuilder, you'll still find it interesting because of Arnold himself and what they show. It's interesting. It would be interesting to anyone.
Yeah,
that's what really makes it outstanding. It's not just some niche bodybuilder only bodybuilders would want to see.
Well, it's an amazing story. He's an amazing person.
Oh,
despite all his faults. I mean, none of us are perfect, and he's had his mistakes too, just like everybody has. But the life he's lived is unbelievable. And everybody says, "Well, who's going to be the next Arnold?" There's never going to be another Arnold.
I agree. I agree. I don't see anyone ever emulating what he did because.
I mean, look how many bodybuilders have tried to go into movies like he did, and they didn't. Nothing, zero. They don't even make one movie.
No.
And he was the number one. He was the number one box office star in the world.
Yeah. I mean, the closest you could say to Arnold are guys that weren't competitive bodybuilders like Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, The Rock, yeah.
He's a big muscular guy. He's not a champion bodybuilder. But he has some of the charisma that Arnold has, but he still doesn't emulate Arnold completely.
He hasn't made iconic movies like The Terminator or Predator. I mean,
you're right.
When his career is over with, you're not going to be able to say, "Oh, remember that movie?" I mean, he's making movies and he's making tons of money, but he's not making iconic movies. He won't be remembered for any great movies.
Not only and the thing about his movies is that there's nothing that really, as you said, there's nothing that stands out about the guy. the movies. I mean, there's no character.
No.
Whereas Arnold, look at all the character, the Terminator, Conan. He has identifications. This guy, The Rock, where's his identification movie?
His identification is The Rock. That's it. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that, I don't know Dwayne. I've seen him in the gym a couple of times, but I get the feeling he's up there now. He's like in late 40s. I think this is a guy who wants to. Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I get the feeling this is a guy who wants to do as much work as possible before his career ends, because he knows it's inevitable that he's going to eventually be pushed aside by younger guys. So he wants it. So he does TV show. Every movie that comes along, he takes.
Right.
And that's the impression. He knows his time is limited.
He's got his own production company now. So he's
right. I mean, guy's done great for himself. I mean, I read that he's worth $800 million. He's like the number one richest actor in the world. So more power to him,
Yeah.
He's a nice guy from what I understand.
Oh yeah. Seems like a great guy. Yeah.
So good for him.
Yeah. All right, Jerry. Well, thanks again for joining us on the Bodybuilding Legends Podcast. It's always great to talk to you. And we'll talk again soon, whenever the next big documentary comes out.
Right. Okay. Always great to talk to you.
All right, Jerry.
Take care, John. Bye-bye.
All right, you too, buddy.